La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix and live.
You know what day it is? Inner Wealth Podcast. Meditate and give. So manifest the greater this. And things all good cause I say it is. Invest in your inner wealth. Real generational wealth is mental health. It's an inside game, no toxicity. Let's talk and more listening. Ladies and gentlemen, and now introducing David McCullar, founder of Inception, the first mental health gym.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix and live.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Inner Wealth Podcast. My name is David McCullar, the host of Inner Wealth. You know, I get inboxes quite a bit, and a lot of times I can't answer all the inboxes. But for whatever reason, I got an inbox from a woman some years ago, and ever since she inboxed me and we connected, we've been connected at the hip ever since then.
Mm-hmm.
So let me say what up, though, to Nikki.
What up, though?
What up, though? Do they say, what do they say in Dallas?
What's up?
What up? They got a different saying.
No, they do. They say what up. They're like, what up?
Because, you know, we call ourselves the D, and
Mhm.
Dallas y'all call yourself the D too?
Yep.
But what's the original D? Is it
Dallas.
us?
It's
Oh,
Dallas.
no, I don't know about all that. Detroit really would have something to say about that. I doubt it.
Right. Well, I'm in Detroit right now, so they
Yeah,
probably would.
You in Detroit, so some years ago you contacted me and you
did.
were seeking something and you
was.
you invited me to an event, what was called the Voices Conference.
The Voice Conference. It was my third one that I had, which was a conference that just highlighted different people, men and women, and their
Mhm.
stories and the things that they've walked through, their testimonies and issues they faced and how they overcame them. So,
So
mhm.
in saying that, what is your story from creating the Voices Conference? How did you? Because that was a big event that I went to. That was a pretty
It
big
was.
event that you did it. You put those on 3 times.
Oh yeah, yeah. For me, I just saw a need, in a way, it was a way for me to share my own story as a platform that I created because I thought to myself, just from my history being a therapist and a counselor, where do we have a space where people can share what they've been through and
Mhm.
kind of get some tips and tools to help each other, to motivate each other, to encourage each other,
Mhm.
to be able to continue to move forward in life. And so that's where, I birthed that from.
Were you a part of like Toastmasters or anything like that, or any type of speaking groups? Because why is it that to get on stage and to share through voice? Like
Right.
why did you or how did you fall into that role or go down that rabbit hole?
Well, I think for me, I've always liked to speak.
Yeah, you
And
do. The short time I've known you, I would say that's true.
but anyway, I think I wasn't a part of Toastmasters. I
Okay.
had absolutely zero experience.
Hmm.
And so I really saw it as an opportunity for just, I wanted to be more of a family feel, just people coming together and realizing that we're all the same.
Mm.
We all, you cut us, we all bleed. We're all human. We all go through things. And I wanted to just be able to have people lend an ear to, helping each other, motivate each other, and find a way through words, through
Hmm.
through therapy, through talking, to be able to help each other move forward and, find those tools that are necessary to be progressive.
You listen to a lot of stories then of people.
hmm
What are some of the powerful stories that you've heard that helped you?
Just people that have lost it all,
Mm.
that have, because loss, I think, is just one area that really impacts us. Because we don't know how we go through those stages of
Mhm.
grief and so forth. And so I've heard a lot of people that have lost things, and not necessarily materialistic things, whether that's people in their life, whether it's through death, whether it's through broken relationships, families falling apart or what have you. And how do you do life, after you experience something like that with such an impact? And so those people that I have been listening to that have really suffered through grief, Those are the ones that I was drawn to because to me, they're so strong, to be able to find, tap into themselves, to go inward to see what's necessary, to be able to pick up the pieces in their life and even in their brokenness, to be able to find their healing
Right.
and do life, yeah.
And you found me through loss,
hmm
right? You were dealing with something. That's why you were seeking out.
Absolutely. I was in a very dark place. I had gone through a divorce after being with my ex for a very long time, over half my life.
Mm,
And even though it was timing, the timing was right for that split. I felt like was walking around without a limb. He
mm,
was very much a part of my life. I have three beautiful children, through that union. And I just was like, who am I? I had been, with him for so long and had been in that role for so long. I had to really find myself again. And so on my journey, I remember I was very depressed.
mm,
I was stressed out, and I was just crying all the time or whatever. And I prayed. I remember my prayer, and I was like, Lord, if people are hurting this bad, because I really hadn't experienced loss like that and pain
mm,
like that, emotional,
mm.
physical, where it's everywhere, right? And so I was like, if people are hurting this bad, I want to be a part of the solution. And so I was on Instagram and I was just scrolling one day. And I went to the Explorer page because I never usually go to Explorer page, but I did that day. This was several years ago. And there I see you.
Mm.
And you were on there and you were talking. And it was something about, the title that you had on your video. And I tapped on it and I listened. And I was like, oh my God, so who is this man? Because I hadn't seen anybody, an African American male, speaking about mental health. And then you had your gym, Inception. And I was just so impressed. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to reach out to him. And so
Mm,
I DM'd you. I didn't expect you to message me back or anything like that, but I needed help. And so I don't remember exactly what I said, but I know I said something like, I'm a therapist and I'm going through a lot right now, a lot of
mm,
loss. I had a career shift and all of that. And I said, I want to know if your gym can help me. And you said, oh, I know it will.
mm.
You said, if you can get out here, I know it will. Can we get on a phone call? So we got on a phone call. I told you my whole story. I was just pouring it out there. and,
Right.
so, and so you were just, you mentioned that the issues are in the tissues and you said, come out here and, try our services. And so I came out there and once I came to Inception, the game was over.
And it's interesting that you described that you are a therapist
hmm
and you were going through a divorce, and even being a therapist and having the conscious awareness of what you could be actually going through, the stages of grief. It doesn't
Right.
stop you from going through those things.
Right. It doesn't.
Having that awareness about the stages of grief and loss, and again being in that field, doesn't mean that you're more well equipped
Right.
to handle what's going on within your brain and your body.
Absolutely. You're not immune to that.
Right.
And for me, I had tried everything. I was, praying, I was going to church, I was reading,
Mm,
I was, using all the tools and strategies I had learned myself.
right.
And I was like, I need something more. I could tell, like, physically,
Yeah.
inside, internally, like I was mourning.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't be on for my family, my children, for my clients and patients that I work with like this. And so I knew that I needed to, work on myself to be
Right.
able to simultaneously help other people as well.
So you
So,
you do have a therapist. You've been in therapy before.
oh yeah, yeah, I've been in therapy. I mean, even when I was in college, I went to a therapist. It's just something about having that safe space, to be able to
Mm.
talk to people and just kind of, let them know
What year
what
do
you're
you think that
experiencing.
was that you started therapy?
Oh, let me see. I graduated in 1997 from college. So it was probably, I mean, I went like probably the first year,
About
the,
98,
oh no, it was
97.
97 was when I graduated. So
Okay.
probably 94, 90,
Oh, okay.
95,
94.
1994, 95.
That's very interesting, specifically for Black culture.
Mm,
Like therapy was not something that we gravitated towards.
right.
So what was the thing that gravitated you towards therapy?
Well, I mean, at that time, I was talking to my pastors at church. I was talking to my friends, my roommates, and it just wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they weren't able to, they were support, to
Mm,
me, and they were helping me as much as they could. But I knew I needed to be able to hear someone that kind of had some training and some
Right.
experiences that they can kind of yield from to share with me. And so I remember I was going through, I think it was a relationship issue, and some things were manifesting from my
Mm.
childhood.
Hmm.
And so I said, you know what, I'm going to go to the college counselor, and I'm just going to talk to her or him and just really, ask them for some help.
Right. So you have been in therapy from 94, again, gravitating towards it for one,
Mm-hmm.
and having an awareness that you needed that help. So
Right.
how beneficial was it for you to start that?
It was good. It was definitely beneficial because it almost gave me like a booster to be
Hmm.
able to release that, get some strategies and tools and start implementing those. And it gave me a place to go in my mind when, different scenarios would surface in life
Hmm.
that were similar.
Right.
And I was just kind of struggling trying to figure out what to do next. And so I had those tools that I could rely on.
And so you still found yourself later on where, again, like you said, go to therapy,
Mm-hmm.
those things, you go to church,
Right.
but there's still more.
Oh yeah.
There's still more needed.
Layers.
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 Right.
Yep.
How many people do you think in the therapy world, or even in the coaching speaking world, understand that there's more? There's more layers to it.
I don't know how many people do. I feel like there's a lot of us because I was that person, right? I was
Hmm.
that person that was like, okay, let me just put a band-aid on this situation and keep it moving.
Hmm.
Let me find, I need to make money. I need to eat. I need to provide for my family. I need to be present with my children. And so there's a lot of people, I think, that feel that they can just keep doing life without simultaneously working on themselves. And it's just not as effective. You can be effective,
Yeah.
but it's not as effective as you can be.
I just think that it's so many, like we talk about layers again, we're starting to understand that there's more tools to
Absolutely.
use on these layers.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to understand what's happening to us neurophysiologically
Mm-hmm.
versus just psychologically. And that's where we were stuck at for a long time, even in the therapy world, or the medical world, is just psychological or physical, and they're separated.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
one or the other. And it's
Right.
like, no, one affects the other
Right.
from bottom up or top down.
But what's interesting? Inception taught me that.
Mm,
Textbooks didn't teach me that. My training didn't teach me that. Inception taught me that.
mm,
That it was, it goes together.
right.
And so that's why I'm so grateful for Inception, because I didn't know. Like, I went back and I was telling some of my colleagues, I'm like, you guys have to come out here. You don't understand that, there's more that's needed than talk
Mhm.
therapy, you know?
At your event, we had two pop-up brain training units,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember training about 20 people, me and
Yeah.
your cousin.
I feel bad for you.
We were
There was a
trained. We were
line
there.
around the
We were there
building.
the whole day. Like, I remember, I went and took a nap to my room, took a nap, came back, started training more. But I do remember probably half the people
Mm-hmm.
just started crying,
Yeah.
and that just showed me, because you got to understand that most of my population who I dealt with for the first 12, 13 years
Mm-hmm.
were white.
Oh, yeah.
And now I had the contrast to see majority of our people do it. And the white people had a similar response to it. They had emotional things come up. But to train 20 people and have half of them like already like emotional or crying
Right.
lets me know how much we were still holding on to
Mm-hmm.
things that happened that no longer serve us, but
Right.
we don't have the proper tools. At
Mm-hmm.
least if you went to therapy, you got a layer of it
Right.
removed, right?
Right. You
But
start the process.
right, you started the process. You have a sense of awareness about yourself.
Absolutely.
But for us who've never really been to therapy at all, any type of therapy,
Mm-hmm.
all the layers are present.
Yes. It's foreign.
So I
Initially.
thought that was very interesting to see so many people. I mean, I saw a kid, he was like 10 or 11 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
he started crying. And it was just like, and I think a lot of people there were amazed
Mm.
at what they saw was happening.
Yeah. It's something about that first session, that first brain training session, because I remember when I was at
Yeah.
Inception and I had that training session, and when I woke up, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be okay.
Because
Because
it gives a
awareness.
major shift within the nervous
Absolutely.
system that you go from that whatever you were in, whether you're fight or flight, and more than likely you were in freeze, like I was telling you, at that point in time. Because when you're going through like a divorce, there's a sense of helplessness, specifically if there's betrayal involved in it, right? So that brings you out of freeze. And you back into your body. And you're
Yeah.
like,
It's like I
wow.
woke up.
Yeah, you woke up.
Right.
Or the people who are in fight or flight who are stuck there and they're overdriven. Their
Right.
nervous system is overdriven in mobilization, and then it starts to come down. They feel a sense of relaxation and they're like, what is this?
Right.
As
Right.
I had one of our ambassadors, Bushman, he came to us. He said, he normally has his anxiety, and by the time he was leaving us, he said, I'm having anxiety about not having anxiety right now, because he's so
Wow.
used to it being present. Then all of a
Yes.
sudden it's not there, and it's like, wait, where'd that go?
Right. Because that was him. He had
Yeah,
been functioning that way for so
for
long.
so long that
Mm-hmm.
became your new norm.
Absolutely.
So when you opened up, so people don't know that
Mm-hmm.
you opened up a pop-up location out in LA, and we were mainly doing brain training the same way we were doing at your event. What were some of the responses from the people you saw out in LA and coming into the facility?
Same thing. They were like, "Where's this been my whole life?" I could have received so much relief beforehand. But one family in particular was a father and a daughter that was really happy. They were very combative. And she was older, but she was living at home, and he had actually was going through a divorce, and he was so angry. She was angry, he was angry. We couldn't get her in, but I was able to get him in. And I mean, after he, did it one time, I mean, he woke up, same thing. He's like, man, I feel completely different. He's like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to do this. Like he had a plan when he left.
Right.
And after that, he was calling me all the time, just can I get back in, and he was trying to get her to get on board. But anyway, so that was, just to see his personality go from, being very aggressive when he came and he was yelling. He was just kind of, I'm tired, whatever. And then he shifted by the
Right.
time he was done with that one session.
And mainly what we're talking about, because I don't want this to make it seem like this is some Inception infomercial, is just
Right.
that we're talking about what we're doing is moving the nervous system, allowing the nervous system to regulate.
Right.
We're stuck in these patterns, and that's outside of psychology. That's somatic.
Mm-hmm.
That's with the body.
Right.
Like we're so look at cognitive that we
Right.
forgot about the body. And that's what
Right.
that whole term, and I didn't coin that term. I didn't make that term. The issues are in the tissues, or the body bears the burden.
Right.
I did add on though, the body bears the burden, the brain tells the tale. Because it's all in there. Like when we think about trauma, right? Like we say this word and it's more being used more than ever. But trauma is not the event. You know what I'm saying?
That part.
The trauma is not the event. Because I can get on a roller coaster and I can feel like I'm in bliss.
Right.
You can get on a roller coaster and feel like you're in hell.
Yes.
So that event could be traumatic for one person and not traumatic for the other.
Right.
The trauma is what happens underneath the surface within the brain and the nervous system. So if the brain and nervous system get stuck, which we see with people
so often,
now that's where the issues start to happen. And I find it very interesting, and I've seen it in the church world. I've seen it in the speakers world. I've seen it in the self-help world, where a lot of that is information gathering. Like I gather information, now I'm going to repeat information,
Right.
or I'm going to be very motivational. And it's like, yeah, get up and go do it.
Repeat it
but you're depressed.
over and over again. Yep. Yep.
I can't do it. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. Because what does that feel like?
Yeah. Feels
If-
like you can't move. Like you're
So-
in bondage.
So your body
Right.
is not just your psyche. It's your body that's impacted.
True.
How did you start to move differently when you started to do things like balancing your nervous system?
I just had more awareness. I had more space. I had more confidence. I was able to see myself on the other side of the pain, on the other side of the mistakes, on the other side of the issues. So that mental clarity that you gain when you really start, working not only on your, talk therapy, working with a counselor, therapist, but also doing the inner work on your own through
Hmm.
modalities and places like Inception. I mean, it's like night and day. You will see the shift. Because for me, I was one of those people. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do affirmations. I'm gonna repeat it 10 times.
Yeah. Right.
I'm gonna look in the mirror, and that serves its purpose.
Yes.
It did help, but
Hmm.
it was not. I knew that I needed more.
I did the affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
Had them on cue cards, taped them
Mm-hmm.
to my steering wheel, because I was very into the self-help world. I was very
Right.
into the motivational world, the Les Browns, the Anthony Robbins, even though Anthony Robbins doesn't consider himself self-help in a
Okay.
sense, or he's not a motivational thinker or a speaker.
Mm.
Like his modality is NLP, neuro linguistic programming.
Programming.
So
Mm-hmm.
he's helping you shift the
Right.
nervous system, right? The
Mm-hmm.
problem is that most people can't shift it
Yeah. When you're suffering with
from reading
depression,
books, definitely.
yeah, when you're suffering from depression and anxiety, and it's like at a point where it's extreme and it's paralyzing you, yeah, you're gonna need something else. And
Yeah.
that's the point I was at. It's like
Hmm.
I knew. And sometimes but you just use other things, right, to
Right.
kind of get through that moment. Some good, some bad.
But
But
you've been a seeker it seems like your whole life.
I have.
And what do you think about, or you experience people who they need to do something for themselves and they don't. As a
Hmm.
therapist, what is that? What do you think that is from?
Resistance.
Hmm.
Resistance. Because it's work,
Hmm.
and things come up and you have to sit with the pain.
Hmm.
You can't, like I referenced earlier, a Band-Aid, you can't put a Band-Aid on it and keep moving.
Right.
Because it's gonna hurt again.
Hmm.
You hit a sore, it's gonna hurt again. So for me, I think it's just important for that awareness, for people just to be courageous. I was scared. I had never been to Detroit before when I came out here.
Well,
And I
when
just
you
saw a
came,
guy
you
on
didn't. You
Instagram.
came, you didn't go to Detroit. First of all, you was out in the suburb of Detroit. You didn't go down to the hood of Detroit or anything like that. So, trust me, there's some places in Dallas I saw that I'm like, ugh. Won't want
Yeah,
to be
don't
over
stop.
here. Right.
Keep
Don't
driving.
drive through that red light. That red light does not mean stop. It means blood.
Right.
Go. And every city
Right.
that I've been in
Oh my gosh. It's
has an
funny.
area, has areas like that. I even was in Orlando, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
yo, Mickey Mouse don't hang out over
Right.
here, yo. Go.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. But I mean, just the point of getting on a plane, didn't even
Yeah.
know this state or city.
Right.
Just because I saw a guy on Instagram.
Yeah.
I was seeking.
Mm-hmm.
I was seeking my healing.
That's how I got into it. I saw a guy on. It wasn't Instagram at that time. It was Conscious Media Network. It was this internet site,
Mm-hmm.
and they had videos of people. And I saw a guy named Lee, and he was talking about brain training.
Mm.
That's how I got introduced to it.
Wow.
And then fast forward, you see me talking
Mhm.
about brain training and everything else,
Mhm.
right? It's the same cyclical thing, that
Right.
just happens. Is for those who are seeking,
Mm-hmm.
how do I get better? Like
Right.
I don't understand the negative connotation to things like therapy. Like we're trying to figure out how to evolve and get
Right.
better. And that's
Right.
what I'm gonna do till I die.
Right. Just continue to grow.
You're gonna see me at 100 years old. and
Brain
it-
training.
everything.
Right.
At that point in time, it'll be some stuff out. You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at
Yeah.
technology and our understanding,
Mm-hmm.
see, our understanding lends to us awareness.
Right.
Like we'll be able to put some nanotechnology in our body that we can observe everything that's going on. Oh, yo, you got some cancer cell build up over here. Like go in there and
Go
destroy that.
address it. Yep.
And
Yep.
that's what we're just doing now. We're biohackers. I like to call
Oh,
it
yes,
inner
I love.
hackers. We're just inner hackers. I'm just trying to get to the place where, oh man, my energy is low. Why?
Right.
Why is it low? Well, I feel
Mhm.
like this. Why?
Right.
What do I need to do?
And so many people don't do that. That introspective
Your suit
talk.
you live in, this is
Mm-hmm.
a suit you live in.
Right.
It's giving you signals all the time about what's going on. But if
Mm-hmm.
you don't pay attention to it, if you don't listen to it,
Right.
then you're outside of your awareness, and then you feel like you're at the mercy of this life. You're just
Yeah.
a victim to life at that point
That's so
without your
true.
level of awareness and consciousness. And that's what you talked about when you do the modalities. You got some space and you can start to see.
Hmm.
And then, but let's talk about this. Just because you did some modalities didn't mean that's where it started and stopped.
No,
That was just the beginning.
no. That's why I'm here right now, because I know I keep coming back to Inception because I know that it's more than just that. I have to continue to find. I'm always asking you, like, what do you need to teach me now? Like, what are you doing now?
Mm,
Because I always want to connect myself now that I know to people that are thought leaders, to people that have more experience than I do
mm,
in this, so that I can go when they grow. I want to grow too, so that not only I can
mm.
help myself and my children, my family, but like I said, my patients and clients I work with too.
What's been a response to your family in doing some of the things that you've learned?
Well, it was funny when I first told them I was going to go see this guy named David
Yeah.
McCullar and go to his gym. They were like, "What? You're
Right.
flying where?" But I mean, they love it because they've seen the difference, and I come back and I tell them everything. My kids know a lot of my story, almost all of it, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm working on, and this is the growth I've seen." And so they're excited just to
Mm-hmm.
see me, continue to expand.
You've been a part of the speaking world, and you have these voice conferences, and so you
Hmm.
have relationships with a lot of these people. What's that? How's that changed or impact them to see you now doing what you're doing versus just doing the speaking?
For them, I think it's really inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get connected. They want to know more, and they're interested in what I have to say in
Mm,
regard to that. So I kind of see that this is an opportunity for me to help educate.
yeah,
Especially the African American community. I feel like I didn't know.
yeah,
About a lot of these modalities, and I feel like a lot of them don't know either.
yeah.
So me, I'm so interested in researching. I'm always listening to podcasts about
Mm-hmm.
learning more about my brain, optimizing my health, like you said, my biohacking. And so every time I learn something, I'm sharing it with those people in my circle, my patients, my clients too, just so that they can know as well.
Right, because we need a quantum leap. We need to make a quantum
Yes.
leap within our culture.
Oh, we do.
Again, you talked about you went to therapy in '94.
Mm-hmm.
My mom started therapy in '96, so you started therapy before my mom did.
Oh, wow.
She was going to school for social work,
Mm,
and that's when she started getting into therapy.
mm.
Um, but that was then, and now you fast forward to today, and people still are just now. Our people just now starting to learn about that.
Right.
But as you learned about therapy at that point in time, you learned that as a thing of, and you probably saw it as this was that's the solution,
Oh, yeah.
or that's the only solution.
Yeah.
It's just
It was
therapy.
the only one.
I just got to go to therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and I think early on a lot of people may have thought I was anti-therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I was anti this being pigeonholed into only talk therapy.
Right.
Like that's not the only tool.
So much more to it.
There's so much more to it, and now we're trying to educate our people to make that quantum leap.
Absolutely. I
You,
want as many of us to go, go
right,
forward, move forward.
and
We
and,
need to.
and you started your Nikki Speaks TV series for
I
mental
did.
health,
I
and
did.
that's part of what you're doing is starting to educate and
Yeah, just to
your
bring
own branch of inner wealth.
right my own branch, but just to bring about that awareness to
Mm-hmm.
touch and talk to people in the community that are entrepreneurs, are people that have experienced something. Same thing, kind of like the voice conferences,
Mm-hmm.
giving them a platform where we can discuss mental health and how it's impacted, who they are,
Mm-hmm.
their walk, their journey. And so I've really enjoyed, starting the series.
I'm glad you said about entrepreneurship
Mm.
because
Phew.
let's talk about that for a minute.
Right.
How was that journey
Whew.
going out to LA and
Oh my
opening up?
goodness.
Even if it was a pop-up shop, it was a smaller location, but you
Right.
went out, you moved from Dallas
Yes.
away from
My
all that you knew
kids, my parents.
to open a business in a whole nother state with very little relationship. So how was
Right.
that?
Well, I will tell you, had I not been brain training, I wouldn't have been able to do that. There's no
Mm,
way. I didn't have the space. I didn't have the mental clarity, so that was pivotal, having that as a tool. It was scary, but I had such a courage and boldness and excitement for what was next for me and just being connected to this business. And so I went out there and I was just light speed ahead, just really birthing it and, networking with the community. And I met so many great people. Like, it was such a blessing to be out there. And it was scary though. And I mean, then I started the downside about it.
Right. Right. What's
What?
the downside? Let's talk about that.
I'm a counselor. I'm gonna start with the positive.
Right,
But
right.
anyway, yeah, it affected my health. I was super stressed, worried, But entrepreneurship is so interesting because I never wanted to give up. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
I can't give up. Like,
Right.
I mean, because if I give up, I'm giving up on me.
Right.
I'm giving up on what I know. What I know that I need to do still.
Right.
And that's helping people, at the highest level that I can.
Mm-hmm.
And this business allowed me and lended that opportunity for me. So I was very passionate, and I still am, about this business. And it was great. But then I just realized, and I remember I was talking to you, and you just gave me more tools and more modalities to try to be able to get through that season, and I stayed out there for, over a year. And was able to, maintain the business and everything. So it gave me a lot of hope to know that, if I made it in LA for a whole year, and was successful and saw some success, then,
In a pandemic.
in a pandemic,
Yeah.
I'd be able to still, continue that success in the future.
The business journey is definitely a self-development journey. That's how
Yes.
I use it.
No joke. It's no joke.
Because you're going to constantly be fixing things.
Yeah.
And it's all on you.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to grow your business, you have to have a level of awareness about your business. Now that
Yeah.
everybody doesn't come from this angle, but I know I do in terms of how I've built Inception and how I move. Once taking a step back and not trying to rush everything,
Yeah.
as being an African American man, I didn't want to fall into the trap of trying to have a business to show people who I was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, look, I got a business. I'm
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
Like, that shit goes away real quick when
Yeah.
you're in the midst
When
of
you
it.
have to pay the bills,
Yeah.
right?
You like, do I want this business?
Yeah, you do have those questions.
It's
What have I
times where you
done?
just, there's many times I just want to walk away,
Yeah.
and that's the difficult part. But
Mhm.
like you said, I had my tools
Right.
and I utilized it to help buffer the uncomfortableness,
Right.
right? You still got to get uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
You're not growing if you're comfortable.
Exactly.
So the uncomfortableness is what creates the ability to transform into something else.
Mhm.
It's the pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The
It's
issue is when we get stuck
right.
in the pain
Right.
and we normalize the pain, and now we
and
are
don't address it.
don't address it. And now we're on a
Mhm.
path of self-destruction,
Right.
and now you have illness within your
Mhm.
body
Right.
because it's too much. It's
It,
too much uncertainty. You got to have a level of certainty.
right.
You can't not be able to pay your business bills and your personal bills.
Right.
That's just too much uncertainty.
Right. Right. And you have to be plugged into your why too. Like,
Why
why
are
are
you
you
doing
doing
this?
this? And
Yes.
that I ask myself that question all the time. Because you can go work for somebody,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, why am I doing this? And I know that I'm doing it for me, so that I can have the tools I need, but also for my kids. Because I know my kids, they're all in college. They're watching me.
Right.
They're watching me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm starting this business or whatever. I give up. What am I teaching them?
Mm.
So I have
Did
to
you
put the
feel like
time in.
you gave up when you left from LA to go back to Michigan?
Well, I got
I mean,
coached.
not to Michigan, to Detroit. Not Detroit, Dallas.
Right.
You in Dallas.
Yeah.
You're in Detroit. See, I don't know where you
Well,
are.
right. Well, I had to get coached by somebody like you, actually you, that helped me. But no, I just, for me, it was like I knew that I needed to make a shift. I had to make a move. And I was my own cheerleader. You got to be your own cheerleader in this. And so I was like, you know what? It's okay. And I love what you said to me because we were talking one day and you said, this is not a failure. And it was funny that you said that because your mind will go there. If something doesn't work out the way that you want it to, immediately you go there, And so I was like, you saying that was like, okay, I can breathe. It's not that. It's a pivot. It's a part of business.
Listen, you were going through a divorce.
Yeah.
You went all the way across the country. I was on the phone with you, building it with you, but you had to go get the contractors.
Yeah.
You had to go, again, I'm on the phone with you, but you still have to go get these people. You still have to spend the money.
Walls.
You still have to make sure that everything is running, right? And you're doing all of that, and now you go through a midst of a pandemic, and you now have to figure out how to pivot and move with that.
Right.
And what I saw with Joe Rogan, and then I saw Elon Musk, and I saw a lot of, it was 18,000 businesses had moved out of California within the last 10 years.
Because they kept shutting us down, open up, shut down.
And that was before,
crazy.
that's before the pandemic, just on taxes.
Right.
And that's why I was like,
You think you want to be
the truth is about that is when I came to your Voices conference and you had set all this up, which I thought was amazing, and all these people showed up, and I was like, why are you moving?
Right.
But I knew why you were moving.
You knew.
I knew you were just running away.
You just didn't tell me.
But if I did
story.
tell you what was going to happen, you still were going to move.
I was trying to get to that beach. I was like...
You needed a break.
I needed a break. I always say that I needed the space to heal.
Yeah.
I needed the space to heal.
New environment.
Right.
You didn't have to see everybody who knew you.
Right. And that was the first time I was away from my kids, and I think for me, it was a big move because when I was 18, graduated from high school, I had asked my parents, I said, I want to move to LA. And they were like, no, you can't move to LA. You got to go to college, whatever.
Right.
You know that story. So I was like, great. So for me, it was an opportunity to go ahead and move out there. And I said, you know what? If there's ever a time in my life where I'm going to choose me, I'm going to focus on me and bet on myself, it's going to be right now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it was at the lowest point of my life, but I found a way to crawl out of the hole.
That built you, though.
It did.
That experience built you.
It did.
When I came down there, though, I knew I was like, she's
going
struggling.
through.
I was like,
that first year entrepreneur business owner.
I knew. Because you get in business and you feel like you're on an island all unto yourself.
Yeah.
And you didn't have a partner. See, I started my business with my dad.
Yeah.
And I always say, people who start their businesses solo, man, that's tough.
You go through it.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. This shit ain't pretty.
It's not.
It is not pretty.
It's not. I mean, it was some lonely nights. It was some tears. It was some stressing. I started losing hair, losing weight. It started manifesting in my body. So guess what? I had to start doing my modalities because you're so busy. I was putting that aside.
Yeah.
And then
I
called you. You like, have you been brain trained? When's the last time you brain trained? 3 months ago. Girl,
listen,
you been...
I overtrained.
Yeah.
It was no way.
Yeah.
I was going, and that's for years. I'm like going through so much stuff with the business. It's like, and you're starting a business like mine, even though we're doing a lot better.
Yeah.
We had, all this social proof coming in, but it's still a business.
It is.
At the end of the day.
Right.
You're still responsible for a kid.
Yeah.
For a kid that's not even
baby.
grown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your baby.
Right.
Like, you have to grow that thing up.
Mm-hmm.
And it ain't ready to pay dividends yet.
No.
No.
And I was thinking it was going to.
A lot of people, unless you opening up a Chick-fil-A or something like that, or something, along those lines, you're not just going. But the thing is, you open one of those up, you're going to be putting in a lot of money. I mean, open a Massage Envy costs you $1 million. They want you to be $500,000 liquid.
Yeah, Starbucks was something crazy. I actually looked at that. I was like, yeah.
So by the time you get to that level, you already got money.
Right.
People who open franchises typically already have money. And we were trying something with you. Yeah. Really was supposed to be just mobile. You were supposed to be mobile. Then next I don't know what. Next you got a location. I'm like, I don't. This thing
I was
didn't
like, I want a
morph.
business.
This thing didn't morph from you having 2 units to go do pop up to I'm building out a location. I got a mini pop up location, everything.
I was like, I'm building a hospital right up here in LA.
Oh man. But again, that all that was great learning for both of us.
Yeah.
You know. And then too, like I said, now you move back home. So how was the move back?
Once I had that conversation with you, and then I talked to my parents and some of my, people in my circle, my cousin. I was like, okay, I can do this. And so I was like, you know what? It's not a loss. All these, we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are losing jobs, losing their family. Lives, yeah. And so I was like, I can't be victim here. I just have to figure it out. And this is my pivot. And so, it's one step at a time or what have you. So I moved back, and I was happy to be back with, people that I know, my family, and, be in that environment. So, it's a process.
Right.
So it's that acceptance piece, and being open to change.
Business and self-development, mental health, physical health, they all work the same.
They do.
There's a process.
They do.
And when you talk about process, if you have a set of dominoes, and you line up all the dominoes, but I say in the middle, you have 3 or 4 pieces missing. If you have those 3 or 4 pieces missing, you can't hit the first domino and then get to the end.
Right.
You can have 200 dominoes and miss 1 or 2.
Right.
And it will not get to the end.
Exactly.
Our culture, with everything we do, we don't like process, and we want to skip process.
It has to be quick. We want it quick.
You can't jump over processes. People are like, you when you're doing your franchise, you launching your franchise. I'm like, man, you know how many little pieces
have to be in place?
That have to be in place. And if I skip one, that means now I may have franchises out there not even doing well because I skipped over one piece.
Right.
But that one little piece matters. And it's the same thing with your mental, emotional, physical health. It ain't just go to church and pray.
Or go to the gym, which I was
or
doing.
Go to the gym.
To think it was going to fix it.
Those are pieces.
Yeah.
And they're important, but they're just pieces.
Right.
What's the next layer?
Doing the work, modalities.
And then we talk about doing the inner work. So it's just more and more pieces to it. And that's how I look at it, where I just troubleshoot my health and like process through elimination.
Right.
And each one of it is a piece. And that's what you have to do. You have to go and get more pieces to your puzzle.
Right. But it would, when I was there, I loved the fact that I was alone because I had that space. I think had I been in Texas, I'd have been distracted by, my family going here, going there. I had to sit with myself, and really analyze, what I needed to work on. So, yeah. Sometimes having that space.
During that time, though, you were working as a therapist still. You're doing some online.
Yeah.
Where are your clients from?
All over the country. I work through this app called BetterHelp, and I mean, I've counseled people, especially during the pandemic. I have a huge client base in Canada. About 85% of my clients are from there, but I've counseled people in Barbados, Spain. Where else? The UK is pretty big.
Oh, that's interesting. So let's talk about this.
Okay.
What's the differences culturally between the people and how they express themselves or how they deal with mental health? Like, what are the biggest differences you've noticed? Because Canada don't play with their mental health.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, that's what I noticed. Everybody, it seems like they're the same for the most part, which was interesting to me. Everybody was going through, the pandemic, going through loss, going through, the restrictions that were forced on everyone or, suggested. And it was like they all needed some type of tools, someone to talk to, because a lot of people were lonely and didn't have a safe space. They couldn't get, across the country to see their families and so forth. But Canada really impressed me because, like I said, 85% of my clients are from there, and they are serious about their mental health. Like, they have no problem signing up.
Right.
No problem seeking counseling. They're in that space, and I just wish more Americans would do that. Like, I wish we were more, proactive about our health, our mental health.
Yeah. One of my buddies, Dammy, Nigerian brother. That's my brother. We got into brain training together. And we kind of really developed our locations and our centers together in terms of the tools we were using.
Okay.
And Canada, like I've been in Vancouver, um,
I still need to go.
and out there, like just floating alone, like the floating community and locations popping up everywhere.
Wow.
Especially one of my guys at Float House in Vancouver, they had like 10 float tanks.
Wow.
Vancouver was notorious for like drug abuse, and a lot of them was going to start to float. I mean, I had a
address
24-hour float place.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Canada, like when it came down to like a lot of the alternative healths, Canada had more than anybody.
Yeah.
You know,
I could see that.
They're really big on that.
I could see that.
The brain training where we get our brain training, they're out in
Canada.
You know, they're very interesting people too, though.
Right.
But definitely
They're seekers.
they are seekers for
They're
that to get
seekers.
better with their health, and they don't see it as like what is that?
Right. I mean, I had males, females, you name it. Like everybody is pretty much on board with that. So it was interesting to me, and it was nice. And I'm still working with them, so it's nice to see and hear people from all over the world, and see we're all pretty much the same in what we deal with and face.
We have a big following in the Bahamas and Spain too. I noticed that we have a following in Spain on the Inner Wealth podcast, and so you can see different cultures and how they think about it. It's like the importance of knowing that you only get one of these bodies,
Right.
And
So how do you optimize your health?
how do you optimize it?
Right.
And my one friend though, she's a doctor, and
Okay.
she spent time in Cuba. She went to school in Cuba,
Okay.
and there they don't they give you an option between alternative and traditional.
Okay.
They don't force it upon you, like,
That's good.
so you have an option. When she came here to go to residency here, because here, even though she's an international doctor already, she can go be a doctor anywhere else in the world but the United States unless she comes here and does residency again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when she came here, oh man, like it was tough for her because the medical system is
Just a
more
code.
about that money.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they are all bad or anything like that.
Right.
They're very helpful when need be, they can be helpful, but they can also be hurtful.
Right.
If you're not using the right tools. So that's interesting that you've been talking to people in the around the world, and that is again that the brain and the body is the same everywhere.
Everywhere. We're all the same. And then in my research, I learned that we get up to 6,000 thoughts a day, which I thought was so crazy.
I thought it was 60,000.
Well, they said it was recently done in Canada. I guess they did a study was it a couple years ago?
You got that from Huberman?
No, I actually researched it because I'm
Okay.
like, what can I do to help people and myself, right? And so we get up to 6,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are
the same
negative and repetitive.
Yeah.
85%. So I'm like, it starts there,
Well,
Just-
people are stuck in cycles and loops, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So do you feel like you broke out of some loops recently, the last couple of years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely the modalities has helped. And then also just doing my own research and learning about my brain and body and how it works, how I'm unique, how I'm different, what I need versus somebody else, So, yeah. for
How's
sure.
it how's that changed you, how you see from a relational standpoint? Like, because you were going through a divorce, and typically we want to seek out the next relationship romantically. So how does that
Right.
change your perspective on the type of person you want to be with now?
Well, now I know that I needed to heal myself. I needed to have more healing because I noticed even after the divorce, the type of, people I was attracting, I noticed that, I needed to do some work too because, I just noticed that. But what I realized is that there's people everywhere. And everybody that you connect with, I mean, they have their own stories, they have their own issues. And so it really would have to be somebody that's in this space of, growing and learning more about themselves and doing the inner work. So I choose different now,
Yeah.
and it's not a need before I feel like it was a need. Because
Yeah.
when you're with somebody for so long, it's
You got to
like,
feel that quick.
yeah, and
There's emptiness there.
right,
Yeah.
right, and you just want somebody to replace it,
Mm-hmm.
and to fill that void. And so I had to go through the process of, no, it doesn't have to be that. I need to fill that void. I need to love myself. I need to believe in myself. I need to
Mm-hmm.
work on myself instead of looking for somebody else to fix me.
Right.
And I think if I would have gotten with somebody right away, then it would have just been a crutch and I would have gone right back into the same old, matrix
Yeah. Back into the matrix.
and routine, So now it's like, it's an energy thing.
So what is those conversations like now, though?
They
Like,
probably think I'm a little weird. Look.
well, that's a good thing.
It's refreshing. I'm like, what are you doing to help yourself?
Mm.
What do you do to focus on your mental health? Is it? And if they say, oh, I go to the gym, and what else?
Right.
What books are you reading right now?
Right.
What's on your playlist? So it's the questions are more in depth because for me now it has to be in alignment.
Yeah.
It has to make sense. For both of us too.
What are you
So,
consuming and what consumes you?
yes, yeah. What are you putting in your body?
Yeah.
It's not a time thing. Before I thought it
Mm-hmm.
was a time thing, and like I said, a need thing. It's a
Mm-hmm.
desire. I
I
like
think we all have
companionship.
this desire. It's all in
Sure,
us, right? To have
right,
that desire for connection and companionship.
absolutely,
That's nature.
right,
But to
yeah.
connect and have companion to
Just to
the wrong
connect.
thing,
Yeah,
that's dysfunction.
right, right. And so I didn't want to go back into that same cycle. And so I wanted to just, I'm taking the time and doing the work, and now I know that when the timing is right, that the person shows up. They
Mm-hmm.
always do, or maybe more. You have options.
Mm-hmm.
So you just take your time. It's not
Right.
time sensitive.
Right. Where a lot of people, it
Hmm.
feels that way. Like I gotta have it
Yeah.
like this. When you have that anxiousness, I find
Yes.
that about myself. Like I don't have this anxiousness to being a relationship.
Right.
But
Right.
let's be honest about relationships. Relationships probably only make up a small percentage. I'm talking about romantic relationships.
Right.
And that seems to be for a lot of people the driving force.
Mm-hmm.
Two
Gotta
topics of
have somebody.
conversation that is always big is money and relationships.
Who you with?
Who you with? Who you talking to now?
Mm-hmm.
People always trying to hook me up with somebody. I'm like, why you feel like I need to be with somebody?
Right.
Because I don't feel like I need
Mm-hmm.
maybe a desire, but it's not a need,
Right.
but our relationships, think of how many relationships. I have a relationship with you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a relationship with quite other people.
Right.
Those are the main relationships that you end up having.
Right.
And a romantic relationship doesn't have to define all of your relationships,
True.
you
So
know?
true.
But we put such focus on that because I think the Disney fairy tale has really
Mm-hmm. The white
made
picket
us feel
fence.
like that's going to be our savior.
Yeah.
That's what's going to save me.
Yeah. And then age too, so I'm older, and so I
Right.
was thinking, oh my gosh,
Women more have that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
we've always heard this clock.
Mm-hmm.
Societal pressures, I think, create that clock,
Mm-hmm.
and then there may be something biologically truths to that too.
Right.
Because nature,
Yeah.
changes, and
Yeah.
within our bodies, nature changes.
Right. Gray hairs pop up.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, hey,
Everything doesn't look the
you
same.
ain't getting no younger. That's what they say, right?
Right. But, and that just goes back to self-love, loving yourself where you are and just relaxing. I mean, our days are numbered, but do I want to have more joy, more peace, more space, or do I just want to have something, to say I do,
Well, now it sounds like, because we talked about love on previous episodes where we're talking about, people say, love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you've heard this in speakers conferences, and
Right.
you heard it in the books, and we're like, this is a systematic way to do it.
Yes.
It's like those domino pieces. If you put them all in a row, that's a system that you're building to know how to get from start to finish.
Right.
There's a systematic way to loving yourself too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right things. When you listen to yourself, like, I'll be worn out. And I'm like, man, I'm worn out. And I can feel my body's like, you need magnesium.
Mm.
That's my body saying, hey, I need some support.
Yes.
And support to me is love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a
right?
way of loving yourself.
Yeah.
It's slowing down and listening,
Yeah.
and I wasn't listening before.
Mm.
I was just trying to fix it as quick as I could so I wanted the pain to stop.
Yeah.
I just
I
wanted
think
the pain to stop.
that's all of us. Like, how can I
That's it.
move from pain to pleasure as quick as
That
possible?
that part.
Oftentimes
Absolutely.
our desire to get there quick is the
Mhm.
problem.
Mhm.
When I came out to your conference, you had this VIP event before the conference, and for whatever reason, I noticed that you were into dance and salsa,
Mhm.
and that's my thing. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
y'all about to have a salsa thing going
Right,
over here? Oh, y'all
right.
invited the wrong person here because I'm about to.
Right. The master of it all.
I ain't no master, but I'm a dance.
Right,
How did you
right.
get into dance, and how does that affect your life?
Searching and seeking
Mm.
alternative ways to help myself. I was a gym rat,
Mm.
used to run track, all of that. So I just, have always used that as a way to fix myself or help myself feel better. So I was like, you know what? I have always enjoyed dance.
Mm.
And when I was in California, it was funny because I signed up to be a Zumba instructor and went through a
Okay.
training for that, just seeking.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the voice conference, going back to that, I just wanted, I found salsa. I love Spanish music. I love their food, everything,
Mm-hmm.
the culture,
Oh, we
period.
had some Peruvian food
Yeah, we
yesterday.
did. That
Yeah.
food was so good.
Yeah.
Rice and beans, plantains. But anyway, so, and I found it and I started doing salsa dancing on my own. And I realized, it allowed me to release some things that were locked up inside of my body and just flow. I just allow my body to do, what it does. Now I
Mm.
need to get the steps down, but
Well,
sometimes I'm just moving my
yeah.
feet.
Yeah, but I mean, you obviously you follow pretty well. I mean, I've
Yeah.
danced with you, and
Thank
you
you.
not having certain steps down, but there's
Yeah.
a difference between
Not stepping on toes.
there's a difference between a dancer who likes to move versus a trained dancer.
Right.
And I came from a place where I was a trained dancer, not like I'm just like going on Dances with the Stars, but I took
Right.
time to understand a lot of the
The steps. And,
framework and the basics and musicality. And I have an episode coming up with my dance teacher, my brother Dwayne
oh,
Wren
that's
soon.
good.
So we're all about movement therapy, and we
Mhm.
just actually spent the last 2 days doing some
Moving.
movement therapy. And when I go
Sauce in the
home from
pack.
those events, the community one and then touch.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't think about that.
Right.
Like I tell men, I try to get men into the salsa community. It's like, listen, do you know that? And I've heard this number out of the population of men. I think this might be just the United States that are having sex. What would you think the number is
Out of men in the United States,
that are having sex?
a good percentage, like a very high percentage.
That's what percentage would you say?
Out of 100,
Yeah.
probably 80.
You know what the number really is?
What?
10 to 20.
Hmm.
So you look at the guys who you think are attractive
Mm-hmm.
and say, but out of all the guys, go to the airport. You attracted to 80% of the men in there?
No.
80% of those men ain't having sex.
Hmm.
It's a small number of the population of men who are having sex with the bigger population of women.
Hmm.
There's a lot of men who don't have the confidence to do those things. So there's a lot of men that are not even receiving touch.
Oh, wow.
You talking about a hug? Forget sex. You talking about just a hug?
Yeah.
You know?
And we're supposed to have like 8 to 10 a day
Right.
according to research.
So dance is a way to get into community, and you can make a connection with someone. And I'm not talking about a sexual connection. I'm just talking
Right.
about a touch-to-touch connection.
Right.
Right. And if men knew what that would do for them and their confidence,
Mm-hmm.
and not just their confidence, in their health. We're
Right.
talking about, again,
Right.
the hugs, right?
Right.
Like, we're supposed to be touched. When you came out the womb, if your mom didn't pick you up, you'd have died,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
Right.
So touch is still prevalent. And if you go out into Japan, it's becoming this big thing.
What, to get together and hug? Or?
No, yeah, well, they have locations, businesses
Oh, wow.
that you pay just to cuddle and touch, because they're it's this whole thing going on. They're not connecting. Men and women aren't connecting anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's important. It's definitely
So it's
important.
very important. I try to get the men I know and the women, obviously, to come in and get into community and to touch one another, be
Right.
connected with one another, and do
Right.
something outside of your normal form of communication.
Right.
Because dance is a form of communication,
It
and it's
is.
without even talking.
And it's so fun.
It
It's
is.
so
I
fun.
would leave high.
Right. Well, and I did some research on that. They said that salsa is one of the best musics to listen to if you're dealing with anxiety and depression. Something with the beats. I don't know.
I
don't know
believe that.
why.
I believe
Yeah,
that. No,
'cause
my
it-
brain had to learn that music, and then you talking about footwork within the music. It's a whole thing, and we and Dwayne went deep into it on our podcast
Oh,
about that. But
good.
yeah,
I'm gonna
that's
listen to that.
so that's why I was like, oh, you into that? Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm into that too.
And I had just started my journey with salsa, but that's why I added it to the conference. I thought that would
And
be
even if
fun.
people don't like salsa, I mean, you can get into ballrooming. You can get into
Right.
they got kizomba.
I used to do African dance in college.
Which one?
African dance. So they taught us how
Okay.
to dance in African moves and such.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, they got
it was
drumming
fun.
circles. They got all these types of
Mhm.
things that you can get into community. Just what we call movement therapy,
Just move.
right?
Mhm.
So, what are some tips from a therapist who's now a biohacker
Right.
and who's now an entrepreneur and who's now a podcaster? Girl,
Right,
Nikki,
right.
you got everything going on.
Because I started brain training. Look. So number one tip, brain train.
Okay. Or if they can't brain train, if they
Yeah,
can't get to a brain trainer, what do you think is a helpful thing that could
Look-
calm the nervous system?
Listen to your body.
Hmm.
Don't deny what you feel. If you are feeling sad, sit with those emotions. Don't run from them.
Hmm.
So journaling is free.
Hmm.
Writing down what you feel and just kind of seeing those words before you, meditating, sitting still and just, listen to meditation music, or you can listen to Hertz music or do sound therapy
Mhm.
to just calm your mind, minimize stress and anxiety and depression. And just find somebody you can trust in your circle of support. Sometimes it's talking to somebody. There's grounding
Yeah.
that I learned through Inception. So if you don't have the grounding, materials or what have you, supplies, then you can go outside, take your shoes off and just walk, be one with nature. Spend time outside for sure.
Yeah.
Listening. That was one thing. It was so interesting when I went through my divorce. I spent some time in a rental home by myself.
Mm.
And I just remember sitting outside on my patio, and it was the first time I was like, oh, wow, there's a bird over there. I started becoming so aware. And I looked at the leaves, and I was seeing the leaves, just, blowing in the wind. And so I became so present to, my environment.
Right.
And I'm like, how many years has it been that I have not seen? I remember my son, he was 5, and we didn't know he needed glasses. And so I felt so bad as a mom because I went and took him to the doctor, and he got glasses. And he's like, oh, my goodness, Mom. He started pointing out all the stuff that he could see, very clearly. And so I think for me, sitting still and taking the time to be by myself and trusting the process allowed me to have those glasses on.
Yeah.
And be able to see things clearly. And it's like, wow. Like yesterday, I had some services at Inception. When I finished, I was sitting there, and I think we were all in the lobby area talking. And I was looking outside the window, and I was looking at the leaves, and I was just watching them blow,
Yeah.
and just being very present to the experience, in the moment that we were in. So, yeah, I definitely think meditation, speaking to someone, grounding, get one with nature.
Yes.
And if you can brain train,
Yeah.
because that, to me, that was the game changer.
Mhm.
I'd never experienced anything like that in my life where, that technology helped me so much reset, you
Right.
know. So I'm appreciative for Inception because I wouldn't have known about it, I don't think.
Yeah. Well,
You guys introduced me to it.
yeah. So you basically, what you did was you went inward. You did the inner wealth work to get 2020 vision,
Yes.
so you can see your life more clearly.
That part. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it, guys. Do your work.
Yes, you have to.
Get your 2020 vision.
Don't be scared. Look.
See life more clearly.
Yep.
Until next time,
2020.
guys.
Bye.
La la la. You've been listening to the Inner Wealth Podcast on EYL.
Get out the matrix and live.
Theme song produced by Be Ready for West Coast Creations. I am Raz Cass, reminding you to take action, be proactive. Be congruent. Get out of the matrix. Get your mind right. We've automated mental health at inception. Join the movement.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix.